Contemplating mortality. I had an interesting experience yesterday in which I found myself keenly aware of my own mortality. This wasn't the first time in my life in which I have contemplated my mortality. It wasn't the first time in my life in which the end seemed palpably near. In the past, when thoughts of my mortality arose, most often it was in relation to the thoughts I was having of ending my own life. It was during my darker times when I just didn't want to hurt anymore, but had not yet learned that suicide was a permanent solution to a temporary problem. During those times, I hadn't truly wished to die, but rather, I just didn't want to hurt anymore. This time, however, my experience with becoming mindful of my potential pending demise was not self inflicted. And there's the rub. In that moment, what I have always known to be true was potentially staring me right in the face. So I chose to accept it. And here's how it all unfolded. It was 8:15 or so in the morning. I had been sitting in my recliner in my living room. I had gone through my normal routine up to that point and all seemed fine. Nothing out of the ordinary to note. I had my laptop sitting in my lap and was starting to catch up on a little bit of work. The time was now about 8:30 a.m. By 8:35 a.m., I noticed my right arm had become a bit itchy. I scratched my arm and initially thought nothing more about it. After a moment or so, my left arm began to itch also. Again, I scratched and continued on with my work. Another moment passed and I noticed that my right arm was becoming very hot and somewhat inflamed. The left arm was also becoming noticeably red and inflamed. At this point, my neck and face also had begun to itch. I went into the bathroom to look into a mirror to confirm that the rash, which was now covering both arms from my shoulders down over the tops of my hands, had spread to my neck and face. It had. At this point, I immediately knew that I was having an allergic reaction to something, but had no idea what. Not knowing if this was an anaphylactic reaction or something less serious, I knew I had to get myself to an emergency room immediately to be safe. Fortunately, there is an emergency room within 2 miles from my home. While driving there, I remained calm yet focused. Being a retired first responder of 35 years, I know the importance of remaining calm in a potential crisis. I remained mindful of the symptoms I was experiencing. Up to this point, the only symptoms I was experiencing were itching, severe redness, and mild swelling where the rash was located. I remained aware that depending on the nature of the reaction, I might have had to pull over, call 911, and seek assistance from a bystander or another motorist. Once checked in at the hospital, I noticed the rash had spread to both knees and was moving down my legs. I went through the initial check-in assessment and was immediately taken back to a room. Blood was drawn and I was given an antihistamine. It was while I was in the room having blood drawn and being asked about what had happened leading to the allergic reaction that I started to really consider my own mortality. The nurse then asked me how I had gotten to the hospital. I heard myself answer her question. I heard her say that they were going to try and figure out what was going on. I then told her, I have 3 dogs and a cat alone in my home right now. In that moment, I found myself thinking about my mortality, that one of these days I just might walk into a hospital and not walk back out. In that moment of contemplation, I found myself wanting someone to know that there were beings at my home waiting for me to return. And somehow I felt a sense of calm through it all. I wonder why that is. I hope you too are able to feel calm in those moments when you find yourself contemplating your own mortality. Always, TJ.